Welcome to the Chapel Hill Players Club podcast. I'm Chris Black. So, in this podcast, I'm going to give you my unfiltered takes, my deep Tar Heel knowledge, and razor sharp wit to the mic each week as I dive into all things North Carolina basketball, past, present, future. But this isn't just a sports show, it's a no holds bar hangout where anything goes, from pop culture hot takes to life's biggest questions and some of its dumbest ones. So whether you're a Tar Heels fan or just along for the ride, pull up a chair and join the club and smash that subscribe button. There you go. So you're probably wondering, or maybe don't care, who am I? So again, I am Chris Black. So I'm just a normal person, normal guy, middle-aged guy. Not giving my age out yet. So I'm a husband to a beautiful wife. So the ring there, not the rock. I'm a father to a young daughter. She's 3.5. And I just have like an average normal job in business. So I'm originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I moved to San Diego, California about 11 years ago for work, and I've made San Diego my permanent home. But all that said, I did go to college at UNC Chapel Hill, so I graduated with a degree. I was the class of 2004, and then actually I lived there for another year after that. So, one question is, what motivated me to start a podcast? So, I'm mostly very busy with life. So I have my work, my family, I have my small child. But that said, I do have a few extra hours a week where I could do something productive. And I usually fill my time with playing Madden or NBA 2K or whatever. But as I said, I'm middle-aged, so I feel like there is something better I could use my time for. So anyway, 6 months ago, I actually started a funny t-shirt e-com site for new parents. So I was kind of putting my energy and attention there. But unfortunately, I only sold 2 shirts. So one was to my dad, and the other one was to my mother-in-law. I think they really, just felt sorry for me. So there you go. But I have given up on that idea, sadly. So I'm on to my next endeavor. And just in general, I'm a very big podcast fan. I listen to all types of different podcasts. And I listen to them, all the time, sports, news, things like that. So you may also be wondering, what motivated me to start a UNC basketball podcast. So I'm a huge sports fan. I mentioned I'm from Philadelphia. I'm a diehard Eagles fan. I'm also a big fan of the Phillies, the 76ers, and I'm a diehard Tar Heel fan and alum. I am not so much a hockey or Flyers fan, so I don't really include that. But anyway, I do consider the Philadelphia Eagles, to be them and the Tar Heels are like my favorite teams. And I did consider doing an Eagles podcast, but honestly, that market is totally oversaturated. Like, everybody and their grandmother does an Eagles podcast. And while I love it, I don't know if I could really contribute to that. So I thought, why don't I return to my roots and, kind of reinvest in the Tar Heels. So the name of the podcast is the Chapel Hill Players Club. So obviously that's in relation to the universities in Chapel Hill, obviously. However, for those of you, those who know, there used to be a club on Franklin Street called the Players Nightclub. It was in an operation when I attended in the early 2000s, and it looks like it was open until 2010, and then it closed. And that's just, from what I could gather when I Googled it. I did have many good nights in that club, so it's a little play on that. So, in terms of what can you expect from this podcast, so my plan is I want to post one, probably initially like 30-minute video, or maybe 1 hour eventually. So one podcast for 30 minutes to an hour once a week, and I'm going to target posting on Sundays. So in terms of what I'm going to cover in the podcast, I'm going to recap, previous games and comment on them. I'm going to look at future games. I'm going to look at the ACC overall and, any kind of analysis I can bring there. And college basketball, I'll probably talk about NBA, any kind of pop culture news will come into it. If I can get guests, I'm going to do that. I actually had a gentleman, Dan, who I went to school with, who I wanted to have on this podcast. He's a little shy, so my hope was to kind of begin, doing this, and maybe eventually I'll get a co-host. But I don't have him yet. But he's, we went to school together, as I mentioned, and he watches every game and is really knowledgeable. So hopefully he will come aboard. But anyway, so talking about that, and then we can, just talk about the UNC basketball history. And then, maybe eventually we'll get into, I'll get back into that t-shirt business, start making shirts or creating products, and maybe, who knows, have a live event. I mean, I do live 3,000 miles away, but you never know. I've been meaning to get back there. So, yeah. Okay. So, we've discussed what is this podcast, who am I, why I want to do a podcast, and what you can expect from it. So I think now I watched the UNC Ohio State game that was played on December 20th, so I can get into that. And actually, before I get into that, I just want to apologize for my background. It probably looks like I believe a Brooklyn loft. I do not live in a Brooklyn loft, and I'm sure it looks really fake. So I'm going to try to kind of fix that and get a better background for future episodes. But for this one, unfortunately, that's what I have to deal with there. But I'm just in my house, and it's a normal house. But I do have a window behind me, and there's just a lot of light, and it's like obnoxious when you're trying to record this. So anyway, so jumping back, so the game. So I'm just gonna kind of talk about the game. I made some notes, and this was the game that was played on December 20th, UNC versus Ohio State. It was a neutral court game, so this was the CBS Sports Classic in Atlanta, Georgia. UNC was in the blue jerseys, and Ohio State was in red. So I'm just going to take a sip, and then I'll get going. Okay, so first point, Caleb Williams is just like really good, right? He's pretty awesome. It just, when you start watching, he just jumps off the page. You can immediately just say, that guy is like, the most athletic or like the best player. And the fact that he's so young, that's really cool. So one of the first things I noticed in the game, the first half, that he pushes the ball really well for a big guy. So I think it was at about 10 minutes, so halfway through the first, he was pushing the ball and he dished it up ahead, I forget who, and they slammed it. And I think that really helps, keep up the pace of the offense. If you're not just having to get it to a guard, but he's able to push, you're able to spread the wings and, look for threes or people cutting in for dunks and things like that. So then the center, Veesaar, is very good too. So, and if I mispronounce the name, I'm still working on it. Veesaar, I believe. Okay, you'll correct me, I'm sure, if it's wrong. But anyway, he's very good. So I would say, very obviously, those are probably their two best players. Maybe Tremble, which we can get into, but he's been injured. So Veesaar, he's really good. First thing I noticed, he is a bit mechanical, so he's a little bit like a robot, but he's super efficient. And I noticed, he can also hit threes. Now, it's a bit of a heavy three to my eye, but it does, he can hit them. And in this game, he took a bunch, was able to hit them. I have a note that Tremble is seems to be stronger and older than number 0, who kind of gets pushed around. And he does look quick, and he looks like he's in the right place. I did actually see him get a nice steal on a duck in, but he's a little smallish. So I also wanted to say that Veesaar, he had a really nice pull-up jumper. It was in isolation after the 6-minute inbound underneath, so that's a nice little addition to his game. That's something they can just go to, and if he can hit that consistently, I think that's going to be a real benefit for them. So that said, while I noticed he was good at that, it didn't look like he was the best at the high pick and roll. He's a little too slow. I like that a lot better with Wilson doing that. Obviously he's way more athletic, and I think that is a little more impactful. I'm not sure that Veesaar can kind of get to the rim. Stevenson, I just had to note that he looks really active. I know he didn't play that much, but just very active. And just going back to Veesaar, he honestly, and maybe I'm underselling Tyler Zeller, but he reminds me of Tyler Zeller, but maybe is better. I'm not sure. Maybe that's a terrible take, but that's kind of what it looked like to me. I don't know if he has quite the touch, just like Zeller didn't have quite the touch, but it's interesting because he went from like Hansborough right into Zeller, and Hansborough had like the soft touch and all that. So I think most big men don't have that kind of touch, but it's still kind of interesting. And Zeller was obviously very good. So I did notice Ohio State shot a lot of bricks in the first half, and mostly threes. So I think UNC actually did a good job of like keeping them out of the paint, and there were a lot of attempts from deep. I mean, honestly, both teams didn't really play that well on offense, especially in the first half. But yeah, a few other notes. There was a beautiful cross-court pass from Wilson. I know he's a scorer, and everybody says, "Oh, he's great at scoring," and he is. But there were multiple times when he was able to like pass, and they try to double team him. I think he was kind of, on the post or in the post. He was able to do the cross-court pass, and it was really good. I also noticed, similar to what they did with Veesaar, they did the same isolation with the inbound play, and then Wilson just hit it was just a very like silky smooth turnaround fadeaway off the inbound. So he hit that, and it was an N1, I believe. Now that said, I did notice, he was missing a lot of free throws. So he missed 2 in a row, maybe more than that. He was 1 for 3, or 1 for 4, and then maybe I'm not sure if he had any after that. It was 34-31 at halftime. UNC kind of went on a run, and then Ohio State kind of did at the end, and then we got a 3. Dixon hit a 3. So a few more notes. So for the second half, I just made the note that 44 on our team is like the small forward version of Veesaar. Is he like Detlef Schrempf? I don't, if anybody remembers the Seattle Supersonics. I don't know. But I will say, I do like how they push the ball up the court quickly, and, if there's nothing there, then they get into their offense. But that's obviously the Carolina way, pushing and just trying to get it ahead as quickly as possible, and transition offense, right? And so, just a few notes. So, Veesaar, he had a spin and a score. He really should be dominating, the Ohio State guy at this point. And then Wilson had a block and another, like, dime pass ahead. The guy didn't finish, but it was a great pass. There were a few different moments where there was, like, a really good high-low between Veesaar and Wilson, or vice versa. And specifically Veesaar to Wilson, and he dunked it. And that's when we got to, about a 10-point lead at that point. Then a funny moment, Veesaar, he hit a 3, and everybody was kind of packed at the baseline or near the basket. and so he was kind of alone at the top of the key, and he hit a three, and then I think it was the next possession. It was almost like a heat check. Like he definitely didn't need to take it, but he did. He just went for it. So, and he missed it. So again, I think it's good though. I think he should take it. I think it kind of opens up the offense. So, I thought the refs let them play up until maybe the last 5 to 10 minutes, and then they started calling a bunch of fouls. But halfway through the second half, there were only 3 fouls on both teams, and I thought they were, playing pretty physical, but they just weren't really calling much on either team until the end when they started to pile up. Again, Caleb Wilson, not great with the free throws. I think Tremble honestly might have been the player of the game. Even that said, with Wilson and Veesaar playing really well. I mean, really the three of them. But I don't think they win this game without the Tremble threes. So I think having him back is going to be huge for like depth. And I think we, as the final score would indicate, we did really need every one of his threes, right? So I thought there was a foul right after that on Veesaar, where they said that he elbowed a guy. I think he got a flagrant one, and like that was baloney. He didn't see the guy coming, so like he hit him, but like that was maybe like a common foul, like whatever. Let's see what else. Wilson had an oop dunk. Tremble took a great charge. So the big man on Ohio State. I honestly don't even know if he played in the first half or like maybe he did. I didn't notice him at all. But in like the last 5 to 10 minutes, number 13 on Ohio State, he was like super aggressive. He was like a problem. Just taking it to us kind of. And then there was at one point, when Veesaar yelled at Wilson, I think he didn't box out or he didn't rotate. So I think he yelled at him. So that's something interesting. I wonder what their relationship's like. Not honestly sure. So just something to monitor for future games if they're snapping at each other. Or is that just like a normal thing with both of them? But beyond that one defensive lapse, I thought Wilson, he was really awesome. Under 3 minutes. And they had said it was his 8th game with 20 points as a freshman. So, phenomenal. I mean, I don't know if that was a record or what, but he is just unbelievable. Now, that said, at the very end of the game, I think there was like 50 seconds left, he had like a really horrible foul on some guy, like a 4-point play. I believe it put UNC down 3. And then on the next, so that honestly probably should have lost him the game. But then Tremble, on that next possession, he went up and he kind of like fell or kind of threw it up at the rim. And he did get kind of a lucky roll. So it cut it to a 1-point game. But then they did I think it was the 2x2, or it was some kind of kind of like pseudo or half trap. So they did the trap, and it worked, and they got a great steal. And then I think it was Tremble was driving at the end of the game. So the last possession, Hubert Davis is running around, giving the tee, jumping up and down. He was freaking out, which is, it's good to see. But anyway, so I believe Tremble was like falling on the last possession, and then he kind of like dribbled it or passed it, kind of barely was able to get it to Veesaar, and he gets the slam, and I think there were 4 seconds left or 7 seconds. So then Ohio State had one last 3-pointer, but then Veesaar, he was able to come over and get the block, and I think Caleb Williams came over, but I don't think he actually got the block. So we got the win, 1-point win. It's close. So 11-1. It's the best start in a very long time. So that is encouraging. So we play ECU today, and that's today, or December 22nd. And then the next game is on December 30th against Florida State. So I wanted to just get this podcast in since this is the first podcast. I have some of that introductory stuff. I just want to kind of introduce myself, let you know what to expect. And then, for this ECU game, I think we're like 26-point favorites or something. So hopefully we'll blow them out. But anyway, that I will do a podcast later this week. So actually, my mother-in-law is coming to visit us. It's Christmas in a few days, so she's going to be with us for I think 10 days or something. And what's funny is she comes to visit quite a bit, and so I live in San Diego. She lives in Sacramento, or like a suburb of Sacramento. So she'll come down, I don't know, every 2 or 3 months, so quite a bit. But one of the last few times we made that joke, or we said, the guest is like fish, after 3 days it starts to smell. So, but then she decided to come for 10 days, so that'll be fun. So I'll be entertaining her. Maybe I'll get her to watch a UNC game. And we'll go from there. But yeah, I'll do another podcast later this week. So really excited to do this. I'm going to really try to stick to this schedule, and I know it's halfway through the year. Or this was like today's game's the last non-conference game. So we're going to get into the meat of the season. So starting out at a really good time, and hopefully go into March Madness with some. Who knows? Maybe a 1 seed, and we'll see. I don't know. I honestly, I wasn't expecting. I had lowered expectations for the season, but with the way Wilson's playing and Veesaar and all of them, I am very optimistic. So, we'll see. We're playing with house money as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, so I'm trying to think of a way to end every podcast. So I'm going to try this one, and if it's, it's not stupid, but if it doesn't work, we'll see. But, again, you've been listening to the Chapel Hill Players Club podcast. And again, my name is Chris Black for the 5th time. But anyway, I just want to say I'm a Tar Heel born, I'm a Tar Heel bred. And when I die, I'm a Tar Heel dead. Until next time, my friends, players, play on.